Welcome to episode 54 of I Thought I Knew How, a podcast about knitting and life and all sorts. I'm your host, Anne Frost, and this episode was recorded on February 26th, 2021. We are going to start today with an overview of the WoolWide Adventures that is going to begin on March 5th. I'll fill you in on the 8 regions we are going to visit during the upcoming online International Fiber Festival. And I have some things to report about my Fantastitch shawl, which has become a bit of a Frankenshawl. Let's get started. Welcome to the drawing room, everyone, virtual though it may be. My actual space is in a bit of chaos at the moment because I'm getting things set up for the live streaming event that is coming up on Friday evening. By the time this episode launches, our live kickoff for WoolWide Adventures will have already happened. Our intention is to repost the event after it's over so that those who couldn't make it to the event can see it. So if you missed it, check out the WoolWide Adventures account on Instagram, and it should be in the IGTV section for that account. I'll try to post it to Facebook and the MeWe group as well, and I'll throw some links into the show notes for you. What am I talking about? I have teamed up with 3 other members of the knitting community to create a new online event called WoolWide Adventures. My co-hosts are Erin Pirro from Morehouse Farm, Amy Snell, the devious knitter who you met on a previous episode, and Irene Wagoner, the author of Keepers of the Sheep. The event will start on March 5th and run until April 30th. The purpose of the event is to broaden our horizons a bit. Amy, Erin, Irene, and I all have shared interests in fiber crafts and travel, and we'd like to share those interests with others. So each week we will be posting an adventure challenge for everyone to try. The challenge will go live at woolwideadventures.com, where you can go to find it on the website itself, or you can sign up there for a mailing list to have the challenge emailed to you. Or you can follow WoolWide Adventures on Instagram and get the adventures that way. They will go live at 5 a.m. Eastern Time on Fridays. Our hope is that you will complete the adventure and make a post on Instagram proving you've done it by Thursday at midnight Pacific Time the following week. If you make your completion post on Instagram with the hashtag WoolWide Adventures by the weekly deadline, you'll be entered to win one of the weekly prizes, which is a pattern of your choice from Amy Snell, a set of wool soles from Morehouse Farm, and a set of stitch markers from me. The weekly adventure challenge may ask you to do a bit of research or try something new. They are designed to be something that anyone can do. In addition to the weekly adventure challenges, there will also be mini treks that you can do if you have the time or the inclination. Some of the mini treks may take a bit more effort. They aren't required, but if you do them and post about them on Instagram using the WoolWide Adventures hashtag, then you'll receive 1 extra entry for each mini trek you complete. And some of the mini treks you can complete more than once. So there's things that ask you to post a fact about something, and if you post 1 fact a day, then that's 1 extra entry per fact that you post, for instance. At the end of the event, we will have 2 grand prizes. One of the prizes will go to a general participant. This is for someone who completed at least one of the adventures or mini treks, and we're going to call this the Daytripper Grand Prize. The prize will include a seat in one of Amy Snell's self-hosted online classes, 2 hanks of synchrony yarn from Brown Sheep Company, a 6-size set of collage square DPNs from Collage Needles, a Morehouse Farm tote bag, and a set of stitch markers. The other grand prize is the Through Hiker Prize, and it will be awarded to someone who completed all 8 of the adventure tasks and posted about them on Instagram using the WoolWide Adventures hashtag. This prize contains everything that was in the Daytripper Grand Prize, plus a copy of Keepers of the Sheep by Irene Wagoner. Completing the mini treks will also earn you bonus entries toward the 2 grand prizes as well. So I encourage you to give those a go to increase your chances of winning. Many thanks to Brown Sheep Company and Collage for contributing the additional prizes to the event. This event officially launches on March 5th, as I said, but if you're hearing about this later, it's okay to jump in at any time. The final deadline to qualify for one of the grand prizes is April 29th at midnight Pacific time. The weekly prize deadlines are every week on Thursday at midnight Pacific time as well. So if you come to the event late, Start with the week we're in, and then as you have time, go back and complete the adventures and mini treks that you missed. The final live event will be on April 30th. The online International Fiber Festival will begin on May 1st. My hope is that our WoolWide Adventures will wet your whistle for some more in-depth exploration and learning in the festival. If you made it to the WoolWide Adventures kickoff party or have been following the online International Fiber Festival social media accounts, you already know where we will be visiting this year. For those of you who haven't heard yet, we will be traveling through the comfort of our own Wi-Fi to the American South, Atlantic Canada, Norway, Poland, Cornwall, Italy, Bulgaria, and Morocco. I have really been enjoying previewing the various documentaries and picking the evening performances. There are so many talented people in the world and so much still to learn. I'm really looking forward to the festival. The marketplace is not quite so full this time. There are a few spaces left for vendors who are from or currently located in Italy, Bulgaria, Poland, Cornwall, and Atlantic Canada. I think I still have one slot open for Norway and Morocco as well. If you know anyone who might be interested, have them get in touch. I'm continuing to reach out myself, but this time around there's some language issues making things trickier, and I think everyone's still a bit shaken by the state of the mail over the last year. Okay, that was a lot. 2 big events coming up to take us through the springtime. I don't know about you, but I need something celebratory to shake the winter plus lockdown funk out of my mental space. So I do hope that you will join in. For now, though, I hope you're comfortably seated with your knitting and a cup of something warm, or that you're enjoying your workout or your drive, or that our chat will help your work pass a little quicker. Before I go any further, thank you to Mimi for becoming a show producer over on patreon.com/IThoughtIKnewHow, and for leaving a kind review over on Apple Podcasts. Some of you got to meet Mimi in our most recent patron Knit Along Time in the evening. It's always fun to see new faces turn up to those knitting get-togethers. I also heard from Feedspot.com that they've included the podcast in their list of top 15 knitting podcasts, so that was pretty special. I wish I could hang that on my wall, but I'll stick a link in the show notes instead so you can see it there and maybe check out some of the other podcasts that made the list. I just gave you a whole lot of information. Sure, it's about 2 events for super fun times, but let's have a little mental break before we move on. I have a song for you. This is Decide by Charlie Carter.
She wasn't ordinary. She wasn't plain to see. She had a smile that'll kill you. It wasn't clear to me. Hopeful, I was taking in the view. You didn't see me smiling, I was standing next to you. Oh, hey, were beautiful, we were taking in the view. I could see you smiling, I just didn't know what to do. Hey, yeah, yeah, this side. 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 Hey, yeah, yeah, this side.
I hope you enjoyed that. I was able to pick up my Fantastitch and do 4 repeats of the current pattern while I listened. You may remember that I had a goal to do 1 big project a month every month this year. I think I picked too big of a project for February. I think I need the extra 3 days that a 31-day month would have provided to get this thing finished. It's a Stephen West shawl design, and I got the yarn at the Northeast Fiber Art Center in Williston, Vermont this past summer while I was on the Great Northern Yarn Haul. It was a new-to-me brand of yarn called Elemental Effects, but it's a fingering weight Shetland breed yarn, which I'm pretty familiar with at this point. First of all, before I go any further, I was just on the store's website to remind myself where they're located, and they are having a progressive yarn sale. I have never heard of such a thing, so I had to look, and what they've done is they've posted a dozen of their clearance yarns, and every week the discount on them gets higher as the color options dwindle, and I thought that was pretty clever. I'm trying really hard to resist ordering. I have only acquired 4 hanks of yarn this year so far. I'm not on a buying freeze for 2021, but I am trying to use what I have, but dang, sales make it really hard. Anyway, back to what I was talking about, the Elemental Effects Shetland fingering. Big fan. Big fan. The price is on par with what Americans typically pay for a ball of Jamieson & Smith or Jamieson's of Shetland, which is about $6.90 for about 118 yards. But with the international mail still throwing a wrench in things, a lot of the online sources for the UK-made wools are running low on stock, so this might be a better option at the moment just for availability's sake for those of us who are in the US. Aside from that, though, it is a noticeably soft yarn. There have been occasional bits of vegetable matter or a guard hair that has turned up as I worked it, but they've been very easy to remove. And I think I've shared in the past that I don't mind the occasional bit of vegetable matter because it usually means that the yarn hasn't been overprocessed. It will do its job better for longer. I'm willing to pick out the odd bit of grass now and then to have a better product. The one warning I will offer about this yarn is to be sure to buy enough of the color you need when you buy it because the dye lots vary widely. I remember standing in the shop looking at the yarn and thinking that the color selection was amazing, and it was, but as I compared labels, many of the variations I was seeing were due to widely varying results for the same colors. And this did become an issue for me, because the Fantastitch comes with directions for 2 sizes, and I bought enough for the smaller size, but when it came down to knitting it, I thought, why knit the small size when you can knit the large? So, yeah, I could have knit the smaller size and finished it by the end of the month, but that's for people who have a healthy respect for their own time. No, I started knitting it and was enjoying it so much, I decided to go ahead and knit the larger size. The shawl is basically a stitch sampler. It's a half circle shawl. You knit 1 or 2 different stitch patterns for a while, increasing 1 stitch on either end of every other row. And then you get to the major increase rows, which he has you do as 2 rows of the same color, 1 knit plain and 1 with all the increases. Some of you will recognize what I'm trying to describe as a half pie shawl. The difference between the smaller and larger sizes is you do 1 more section of that increase section where you knit a few different stitch patterns and then have the big increase row. So the small ends up with rows that are 611 stitches long, and the large ends up with rows that are 791 stitches long. When I decided to go bigger, I had to look at the yarn I had bought and see what I could do to make it work. The shawl already calls for 7 colors, so if I needed to sneak a few more in, I thought that would work. Luckily, because of the yardages of the elemental effects, I had enough of 2 of the colors to cover the increased need, so I needed to supplement 5 of the other colors. The white was no problem. I had a ball of Jamieson & Smith's A1, or 1A, sorry, that I had barely used that was very close to the white I was using. And there's a section toward the bottom of the shawl that was coming up that was just the white, so I used the Jamieson & Smith for that one, and that more than covered the shortfall. The other 4 colors were going to be trickier though. I went stash diving looking for black, a dark plum, a lighter plum, and sort of a bluish gray. You'd think that the black would have been an easy match, but no. I didn't have anything that came close to any of them. What I did have, though, were colors that had similar tones to what I was looking for. So tone can be thought of as how bright or dark a color is. It's technically the amount of gray that's mixed in with the color. When you take a black and white photo of your yarns, the resulting photo shows you the tone of the yarn. The yarns I found that had matching tones to what I was trying to supplement were a green, an even lighter plum than the light plum I had, and some grays. So I was able to stretch 2 of the colors I had by getting creative with 2 of the stitch patterns, or really 1 of the patterns. It was the same pattern used twice in the shawl, once by plan and once out of necessity. The pattern is a very basic mosaic knit where you create dots by slipping the background stitches around the pattern stitches, and it forms so the pattern color becomes like little dots floating in the background color. The first time I knit the pattern color was supposed to be the lighter plum shade that had originally been part of the shawl, and I wasn't going to have enough. So I took the even lighter plum I found and I broke them both up into 1 yard segments, and I split spliced them together alternately. So rather than the dots being solid, they are varying shades of light and lighter plum. The second time I used the stitch pattern, it was because I ran completely out of 2 of the colors, the blue-gray and the black, about 16 rows before their stitch pattern ended. So I went back to using the dot stitches, this time with the green I had found for the background, and for the dots, I made a fade using 3 of the remnant grays I found in my stash. So those dots start out quite dark and fade to a light gray by the end of the section. The 2 plum shades I started with petered out on me later in the shawl when I was supposed to knit 3 purl ridges. I started with the darker plum and it gave out. I did the next ridge with the last of the lighter plum and then it gave out. And at that point, the only option I had for the 3rd ridge was gray. Also, when I got to the big white section, I was going to use the Jamieson & Smith white for. That turned out to be a twisted rib, which I am not a fan of knitting, and I certainly didn't want to do 12 rows of it when the rows were well over 500 stitches each by that point. So I changed that to being a broken rib instead. This is all starting to sound like a Frankenshawl by now, I bet, but it's actually been working out fine as far as I'm concerned. I may feel differently when it's off the needles and blocked, but the colors are working together fine by my eye, and it's such a scrappy feeling shawl anyway that I don't think the alterations change the overall feel of it that much. Sometimes you take a risk and it pays off. Knit New Haven has a knit-along coming up for the Ridgeway Capelet knit in Clinton Hill Cashmere. Cashmere, folks. They are offering 10% off the bespoke DK cashmere you will need for the knit-along, and they are hosting a live Zoom cast-on party with Rebecca Kevelson from Clinton Hill Cashmere on Sunday, March 14th at noon Eastern Time. When you buy the yarn from Knit New Haven, they will send you the link to join in. So be sure to check that out at knitnewhaven.com. Have you tried out the Morehouse Merino flock group yet? They have had 2 knit-alongs since it's gone live. One for the Atlas cuffs, which were smaller versions of the Atlas headband and walked us through the skills we needed to do double knitting in the round before taking on the larger Atlas headband. The knitting support is great, but the community support that's already blooming in the group is wonderful. The new flock group is a subscription service, but you can subscribe for a month at a time if you like. or you can just join up. There are 3 subscription levels that give you varying levels of access, including the ability to contact Erin for personalized help with any project you're working on, not just Morehouse projects. It's a very wholesome, supportive community. Check it out at morehousemerinoflock.com. It has been a while since I brought you a new product to tell you about. I don't just work with anyone when it comes to being an affiliate. I have had a few promising leads in the last few months, but when the products arrived, I was just not impressed. So I'm really thrilled to be telling you about Adagio teas. Adagio is a loose leaf tea company that sources their ingredients directly from the growers so it can be blended and sent to customers as quickly as possible, making each cup as flavorful as possible. They sell the tea packaged loose, but you can also buy the same blends in tea bags or as loose single-serving sizes, depending on the level of convenience you need. I am currently making my way through their herbal tea portion sampler. I'm already a fan of peppermint and chamomile, so it's no surprise that I loved theirs, but I will definitely be ordering more of the wild strawberry, and the foxtrot was amazing. I have a little metal infuser already that I can put the loose leaf tea into and drop into my mug, but you'll see on their website that they offer their own mugs that have an infuser that sits inside the mug while the tea steeps, and it has a little lid. And then when the tea's all steeped and ready to drink, you put the lid down as a coaster and put the infuser on it so it's not leaking all over your table while you enjoy your tea. It's very clever. This is another product that I decided to try in our quest to minimize waste in our household. While the portion sampler has 12 individually packaged teas in it, now that I know which flavors are my favorites, I can order them in larger amounts and not worry about leaving mountains of nylon tea bags in my wake. Give them a try by clicking the link in the show notes, or visit IThoughtIKnewHow.com and click the Be a Booster link, and you will find them there. Thanks for supporting the show. My foray into redesigning a perfectly good design this last week has got me thinking about other things, lots of life things, paths taken and not taken, and paths with unexpected roadblocks and detours. It's amazing the directions that running short of yarn will send my brain in. Anyway, I was thinking about all the modifications I was having to make and the gentle surprise of having it work out. Because I have made modifications to projects before, and the consequences have been disastrous. Yarn substitutions that just did not work out. Color swaps that looked hideous. Gauge changes that made simple blankets as stiff as cardboard. As I think back to those other projects, it strikes me that with all of them, one of 2 things were at play. I was working with someone else's materials, or I was in a hurry. The split's probably 50-50 as I think about it. Patterns gone wrong because I was given yarn by someone who didn't want it and I was trying to make it work because that's what I had. Or horrible results because things were worked as fast as I could because I was trying to make a deadline and there was no time to start over. A hat that is the wrong size is no good to the wearer, even if it is done by Christmas. A blanket that's too stiff to form against the curve of a baby is just not going to be used. But I was doing my best with what I had, and I hope that those clunky projects eventually found a place somewhere with someone who has some use for them, but honestly, I expect a lot of them ended up in the landfill, and I can understand that. Since those earlier projects, I have learned so much more about how certain yarns behave, a general sense of color theory, shawl construction, and the placement of increases. I've realized that self-imposed deadlines can be self-unimposed as well, and that just because someone passes supplies on to me doesn't mean I'm obligated to use them. And that just because someone passes supplies on to me doesn't mean that I'm obligated to use them. I can pass them on again. Now I pick my own yarns and patterns. I have the knowledge bank from years of experience to make wise alterations with the skills and supplies I have. I'm not saying that every modification will be a seamless integration into the original, but I think I stand a better chance of making a proper go of it these days. And there's no sense in crying over the landfill projects. They were part of the learning process. Looking back, I can think of several things in my life that I'd have done differently if I had the knowledge I've accrued since then. There were choices I made and actions I took because I was working with the materials or knowledge or insights that I had received from another. Instructions I followed that had worked for someone else's life, but did not work for mine. Alterations I chose that ended up clunky, and some relationships that have ended up in the landfill that probably wouldn't have if I had more life experience at the time, or had seen other choices. Times when my impatience pushed me into positions that would have been better served by taking a step back, even if it meant starting over and not meeting a self or society-imposed deadline. I'm lucky that I can say that none of these life projects would have likely resulted in my life being all that different. I'd still be married to the same man. I'd still have my 2 girls. Those are the important things. But we all have those cringe moments, those what-if moments. Those moments that ended up in the landfill because they were no good to anyone. And there's really no use in crying over them, though. They were part of the learning process. In the end, we'll all finish with our own Frankenshawl of a life. It will be full of times when we followed the pattern and it worked beautifully, and times when we lacked the proper materials and had to make modifications. Some of those will work out beautifully, and some of those will be less than ideal. And times when we made the choice to set the pattern aside and let our own heart and mind do the designing, and each shawl will be a masterpiece. Our last song, as a reward for listening to today's mad ramblings, my friends. This is Life, and it is on my music site with no maker listed. It sprang forth whole, like a miracle.
You said I was to do the thinking for both of us. Well, I've done a lot of it since then. It all adds up to one thing. You're getting on that plane with Victor where you belong.
But I kept going.
Now, you've got to listen. Inside of us, we both know you belong with Victor. You're part of his work, the thing that keeps him going. If that plane leaves the ground and you're not with him, you'll regret it. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but still for the rest of your life.
What about that?
'Cause life is a miracle. 'Cause life is a miracle. You told me not to say goodbye, even if I wanted to. You told me that I'm not alright, even if I was for you. I told you that I gotta go. I told you it's for me and you. I told you not to call me, that we have to start on something new. 'Cause life is a miracle. 'Cause life is a miracle. You didn't let me figure out, you didn't let me be myself. I knew you wouldn't leave me, so I'd never be with someone else. I tried before to let you know, even I can compromise. Once I left you by yourself, you couldn't keep me out your sight. 'Cause life
few more things before I go. Chris at Garths, Croft, Bressay has been doing a bunch of videos on Instagram lately to share some of the history and geography of the island. Find him on Garths, Croft, Bressay on Instagram, or search for Garths, Croft, Bressay on YouTube and subscribe to his new YouTube channel there. Link in the show notes, of course. I am taking the plunge into someone else's online festival in March. If you'd like to join me, I'm attending Vogue Knitting Live during the March session. I'm taking classes on intarsia, Japanese knitting hacks, and spinning. I'm a little wary of how the spinning will go over the internet, which is why I've been putting it off so long. I have this wonderful fleece that Helene sent me from Garths, Croft, Bressay that Erin lent me the paddles for so I could get it all carded and in rolags. And then before I could meet with Terri to get a spinning lesson, COVID hit. So it's been sitting in bins in my office for all this time because I've been waiting to meet in person with Terri. But I also, in order for the ticket package I was buying, I needed one more class. So I ended up signing up for the spinning class. And if it goes well, it goes well. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. And I'll just wait longer to meet with Terri. And if it goes great, then I can meet with Terri still, and she can give me some pointers. Anyway, I'm starting to ramble. Thank you for listening and knitting with me for a bit. If you'd like to support the show, please visit patreon.com/IThoughtIKnewHow to make a monthly pledge. You may also consider making a purchase from one of our sponsors by visiting the website IThoughtIKnewHow.com and clicking the link at the top that says Be a Booster. While you're on the site, you can also find the show notes for each episode. Thank you ever so much to my patrons, to Knit New Haven, and to Morehouse Farm for sponsoring the podcast. Find me on my social media accounts as I Thought I Knew How, except on Twitter, where it's just Thought I Knew How. The groups on various platforms are all called I Thought I Knew How Podcast. Until next time, may you be blessed with stitches that never drop, yarn without joins, and plenty of time to knit.